Graphics cards are finally in stock, prices are coming down, and we even have new mid-range and budget GPU launches. Welcome back to PC Builder, I'm Jason. We're going to take a look at the best graphics card to buy in May 2025 and cover every budget level, from the best budget graphics card all the way up to the best 1440p graphics card and best 4K graphics card in 2025. And we'll look at upcoming graphics card launches and sales, so you can get the best value GPU right now. If you get value out of this video, hey, please give it a like because it really helps out the channel, and of course subscribe for more cool PC content. With that, let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows licenses and that terrible Activate Windows watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key and get a Windows 10 or 11 OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 30% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom! Windows is fully licensed for a crazy low price. And they have Microsoft Office licenses too. Use the links in the video description. Let's start off by playing everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, the good news is that GPUs, many of which just launched in March, have finally filtered into stock in the US. This is a welcome turn after NVIDIA undersupplied its RTX 50 series Blackwell GPUs, probably the most paper launch of any GPU series in history. While AMD shipped many more RX 9000 series GPUs than previous generations, the fact is that NVIDIA typically supplies well above 80% of all GPUs shipped, so they couldn't make up the difference. But in the last 2 weeks, we have suddenly seen many RTX 50 series models come into stock here in the US. Of course, in the US, we also have tariffs looming over the entire PC market, which we'll talk about in a bit. First, let's jump into current GPU pricing for AMD Radeon GPUs. Note that the RX 7000 series is largely sold out except for 2 models and likely won't be coming back. The good news is that at least at the time of filming, we do have RX 9070 XT models approaching MSRP. Right now, you can pick up the ASRock RX 9070 XT Steel Legend for just $699. Future Jason here just before the video went live, Newegg switched it, so you do have to buy a combo with the ASRock Steel Legend RX 9070 XT. Good news is the GPU is still $699. Bad news, you have to buy it with a combo. However, the combo is actually pretty good. Either a motherboard like the ASRock X870 Pro RS for $209, but you get $30 off, $10 with the combo deal, and $20 with the rebate, or a gaming monitor. And given this is an all-white GPU, which does typically demand a price premium over MSRP, this price is well within what we'd expect in a normal GPU market. Of course, the downside is that none of the models we'd expect to find at MSRP are in stock, but given that the cheapest RX 9070 XT last month was about $900, this is welcome news. You can pick up a combo deal for the Gigabyte RX 9070 XT Gaming OC, again another premium model, along with a good mid-range B850 motherboard for $910 total, with the GPU being priced at $729. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. The bad news is that for the RX 9070 non-XT, while the price came down to $679 from $850 last week, that still makes it only $20 cheaper than the RX 9070 XT. It's still 24% above MSRP, and that's for the base model Power Color Reaper Edition. You can still pick up an RX 7900 XTX for just about $840, and then lower end offerings include the RX 7600 8GB at $274 and RX 6600 at $239, though it seems those models are disappearing rapidly along with the rest of the RX 7000 series. We do expect AMD to announce the RX 9060 XT 16GB GPU this month, likely with a launch in June, according to a leak from BenchLife. We'll cover more specs on this later in the video. Switching over to the NVIDIA RTX 50 series pricing, and the big change here is these GPUs are finally in stock after being massively undersupplied by NVIDIA. So a positive sign that NVIDIA is increasing its gaming GPU allocation. The RTX 5090 remains at an eye-watering $3,159. That's 58% over its $1,999 MSRP. Now that price is actually for a Newegg combo deal with a high-end Intel Z890 motherboard. Yes, I know nobody wants one of those Z890 motherboards, but if you only want the RTX 5090 by itself, the price is closer to $3,700. So save the $600, pick up that free motherboard instead. The RTX 5080, which last month sold for around $1,700, if you could even find one, is now down to $1,400, and there are now a number of models in stock, but it's still 40% over MSRP. The RTX 5070 Ti, which last month was well over $1,000, again, if you could even find a real listing, is now in stock for $899, which is 20% above its $749 MSRP. The RTX 5070 can currently be bought for $605, just 10% above its $549 MSRP and on track with pricing from the previous generation RTX 4070 Super, which had similar performance. The just launched RTX 5060 Ti 16GB has fluctuated in its availability. Initially, it did sell out, but you can now pick one up for $529, which is 23% above its MSRP of $429. I did see some $499 listings come and go earlier in the week. We are expecting the RTX 5060 8GB GPU with an MSRP of $299 to launch, and the rumored date is May 19th, but NVIDIA hasn't confirmed this yet. If you're wondering about the RTX 40 series, they're pretty much gone, with the few remaining retail listings at absolutely insane prices. You can still pick up an RTX 3060 12GB GPU for $329 and the RTX 3050 8GB for $232. Note, I'm not planning on tracking the RTX 5060 Ti 8GB. I just don't ever think I'm going to recommend it, but let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to add it. Moving over quickly to the Intel GPU pricing, and we see another glimmer of good news. The Arc B580 12GB GPU, it's actually available at $299, although that price is 20% above its supposedly $249 MSRP. Meanwhile, the Arc B570 10GB, sitting at an interesting $279 right now, it is 27% above its $219 MSRP. Now, given how all the other mainstream GPUs around $300 had completely sold out, this is actually bringing much needed supply to this end of the market. But the bad news is that the Arc A580 and A750, which were holding down the sub $200 end of the market, they're now sold out everywhere. Moving over to new GPU launches, AMD just announced the RX 9070 GRE 12GB GPU set to launch on May 8th. Now, AMD claims the RX 9070 GRE is 6% faster than the RX 7900 GRE 16GB GPU. This launch is China exclusive right now, similar to the original 7900 GRE launch, but it's possible AMD will bring this GPU to other markets as it did with the 7900 GRE about a year into its life cycle. We're also waiting on an announcement for the RX 9060 XT 16GB and 8GB models, which we do expect to be made at AMD's Computex keynote on May 21st with a launch in June. The 9060 XT should utilize FSR4 upscaling, similar to the RX 9070 GPUs, although some rumors have called into question whether it will have a video encoder. Now, that would be an odd thing to leave out. Earlier rumors had it launching on May 18th to compete with the RTX 5060 8GB. Performance leaks from Moore's Law is dead put the RX 9060 XT performance somewhere between the RX 7700 XT on the high end and the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB on the lower end, with pricing rumored to be somewhere between $350 and $380. In my opinion, needs to be a little bit cheaper than that, but given the current GPU market, maybe that's fine for now, as AMD does usually cut prices as time goes on. We're also expecting the RTX 5060 8GB with an MSRP of $299, and we'll see if that's real or not. And that's going to launch in May, with rumors pointing to May 19th for the release. No real information yet on how well supplied this launch is going to be, and I suspect that we'll see street pricing quite a bit higher than MSRP. Now, based on leaks, we expect the RTX 5060 to be substantially more powerful than the RTX 4060, with 25% more CUDA cores, along with GDDR7 memory. That could give it 4060 Ti-like performance, and could even possibly tie the RX 9060 XT. Now, a lot of that increase is because NVIDIA is using the O6 die for the RTX 5060, as it usually does with 60 class GPUs, instead of like the RTX 4060, which used the weaker O7 die, and that really should have been called the RTX 4050. But the RTX 5060 will still only have 8GB of VRAM. So with GPUs finally in stock and prices dropping down towards MSRP, should you buy now or should you wait? Well, it actually depends on where you live. If you live in the US, it's just not clear what tariffs even apply to graphics cards right now. The administration has offered completely conflicting information, and some additional tariffs that were on hold until early May are about to kick in unless the administration issues yet another pause on them. Now, some GPU makers are already diverting shipments originally banned for the US to other markets. So if that trend continues, or if it gets worse, pricing is going to get a lot worse, of course. If, on the other hand, the administration continues to exempt GPUs along with other semiconductor products, then supply might increase and prices would go down. So it isn't clear if pricing is going to get better or if it's going to get worse. Right now, I'd rate the US pricing as not bad, with several GPUs relatively close to their MSRPs. So honestly, if you want to pull the trigger on a new GPU, there are several options that we're going to go through that I think are good values. obviously taking everything into account. If you live outside the US, supply generally seems good, as regions outside the US have seen increased supply as GPU makers divert those graphics cards originally intended for the US market to other markets. Now, pricing in many regions is at, even below MSRP, but if the US were to resolve the tariff issues in a way that favor GPU imports to the US, we could see this trend in the other direction as GPU makers rush supply to the US market to take advantage of higher pricing. My advice to buyers everywhere is if you need or if you want a GPU, this could very well be your best opportunity to grab one at a somewhat reasonable price without gambling on an uncertain future. Starting with the best graphics card under $300 in May 2025. Now, there just aren't any sub $200 GPUs right now in the new market that I would recommend. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to bring back the used GPU section for the $100 and $200 recommendations. That will take some work to get it going again, but I'm willing to do it if there's enough folks out there that want to see it. Now, I've included the RX 9060 XT at the lower end of the $350 price rumor range and the RTX 5060 at its MSRP of $299, though honestly, I expect most of those models are going to sell for quite a bit more than that. The FPS numbers for the 9060 XT and the RTX 5060, those are my guesstimates based on leaks. We will of course get third-party reviews which will give actual performance data. Now, if you've got a modern CPU like a Ryzen 7600 or 5700 X3D, then I think the Intel Arc B580, it just makes a lot of sense at $299. Now, Intel GPUs have a much higher CPU overhead than Radeon and NVIDIA GPUs, but honestly, if you're playing at 1440p on a modern platform, then I'd get an Arc B580 with its 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, if you mostly play competitive games, which are generally much lighter on VRAM, I do expect the RTX 5060 to be quite fast. The only question is, how long is that 8 gigabytes of VRAM gonna last, even on lowered setting games? And of course, what do you do if you want to play something that's more graphics intensive that's going to need more than 8 gigs of VRAM? Moving over to the best GPU under $500. We'll call it around $500 as there just isn't much in this price category right now. Now, fingers crossed that changes soon. We've got the RX 9060 XT, which is rumored to come in somewhere around $350 to $380 in June, and the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB, which you can pick up right now for around $530. Now, I've also left in the best previous tier cards so you can see what the extra money gets you. Remember, the RX 9060 XT and RTX 5060, those are my performance estimates based on leaks, and there will be proper third-party reviews with actual performance data. Now, honestly, there's a huge gap in the market here, and if the RX 9060 XT 16GB performs somewhere near what I'm expecting, it's hard to justify the 5060 Ti 16GB price premium. But it's also possible we'll see restocks of the RTX 5060 Ti bring that price down much closer to its MSRP of $429. Now, I certainly understand if you just don't want to wait and you decide to pull the trigger on the 5060 Ti 16GB, though I would absolutely avoid the 8GB version. Moving over to the best graphics card under $700, and these are really the best 1440p GPUs on the market right now, given current pricing. I know some of you are going to be tempted by the RTX 5070 12GB that's only $80 more than the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB, and it's quite a bit faster at 1440p. But if you can stretch up to $700, then I would grab the RX 9070 XT 16GB, more VRAM and more FPS. This is really a 1440p or even 4K capable GPU, as we'll see in a moment. And with FSR 4, AMD has really closed the gap, as long as they come through on implementing more games into FSR 4. Mr. Bear, are you gonna take over this show? Of course, there's also the possibility that we will see additional RX 9070 non-XT restocks that bring the price of that GPU further down as well. And I think at around equal pricing, say $599, I'd personally lean towards the RX 9070 for more VRAM. Though honestly, I wouldn't fault you if you just don't want to wait and you grabbed an RTX 5070 for around $600 if that's as far as you can stretch. Moving over to the best GPU 2025 in May for any price. So this is basically the best 4K GPU in 2025, and there's quite a bit more selection with the RTX 5070 Ti, RTX 5080, and RTX 5090, along with the 7900 XTX, which you can still find in the US. Now, I've left in the previous best tier GPUs so you can see the difference. Now, while it's hard to recommend the RTX 5070 Ti 16GB at its current $899 price tag, that's $200 more than the RX 9070 XT for very similar performance, it is my current go-to recommendation if you're a ray tracing enthusiast. For ray tracing, the RTX 5070, it just doesn't have enough VRAM or performance to be viable, and while the RX 9070 XT is vastly improved in ray tracing, The RTX 5070 Ti, it's really the one to get for ray tracing enthusiasts. Now, personally, I don't care about ray tracing, and from our polling, 85% of you don't really care either. So for all of you, I think the RX 9070 XT is the one to get. If you do want more power, the RTX 5080 is $1,400. That is the price of two RX 9070 XT GPUs, which is crazy to think about. And despite costing almost as much as the RTX 4090 did last fall, it isn't even as fast as the RTX 4090. Meanwhile, if you want an RTX 5090, you can now finally purchase one at retail. And I know you folks are the kinds of shoppers who mostly don't want to wait, so go ahead and pick it up. The RTX 5090 is class-leading performance, so maybe it's worth it. I've linked the Newegg combos down in the video description for you to check out. All the graphics cards we mentioned in this video are linked down in the video description, including the Newegg combo deals, so click on those to check out pricing and availability in your region. And of course, if you get value out of this video, please give a like and of course subscribe for more cool PC content. Like, did you check out our recent Ryzen 9800X 3D build guide, where we go through everything that you need to know to put together the best Ryzen 9800X 3D gaming PC on the planet in 2025, RAM, motherboard, GPU, and everything else. Check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.